Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing Shong. Chapter 67. Master of the Throne. Part 4. The one-eyed man approached us. This was my first meeting with one of Seoul's 7 kings. Yusanga talked in the group chat. Dr. SSI, this person is perhaps. Yes, you're right. I nodded to Yusanga. It was impossible not to think of this person when seeing the appearance. By the way, I don't understand. Even if the constellation is that person, why is the incarnation dressed like that? His sympathy with the constellation seems to be high. The higher the sympathy rate, the more the incarnation is influenced by the lifestyle of the constellation. I should never cough in front of him. The man with long hair tied back was bowing to the man approaching us. Your Majesty. You came. Yes. What happened? Do I need to say it? Here. The one-eyed man pointed to his staff. There was a blue jewel available from the Big Dipper embedded on it. Greedy wolf star. The long-haired man admired it. Oh. Wasn't he quite good? Already gaining 1 star jewel. The star jewels were the rewards of the Big Dipper chapter. It was an item that increased overall stats by 1 level. It had a good effect on its own, but the star jewels were meaningful when 7 were collected. It was because the jewels were the summoning material for the 4 demonic beheading sword. The one-eyed man looked at me. Who are these people? They have just entered the Big Dipper chapter. Their abilities are quite good, so I was thinking about getting them to join. Really? The one-eyed man and I extended our hands to each other at the same time. I am Cha Sang-kyung. I am Kim Dokja. I shook his hand while activating a skill. The exclusive skill, character list is activated. Plus. Character information, name, Cha Sang-kyung. Age, 26 years old. Constellation support, One-Eyed Maitreya. Private attribute, pseudo-sect founder, hero, Maitreya king, hero. Exclusive skills, weapons training LV5, mental barrier LV3, eloquent speech LV3. Skillful deception LV3, false prayer LV1. Stigma, Maitreya promised land LV2, law of interest LV2, demonic enemy LV3. Overall stats, physique LV28, strength LV26, agility LV28, magic power LV25. Overall evaluation, no one can be free in front of his eye, that gives insight into everything. Be careful not to cough in front of him. Plus. It was regrettable that Young Hee-won wasn't here. If she saw this man in front of me, she would never speak nonsense about my sponsor again. Cha Sang-kyung said, I have a burden of seeing things. Can I look at you once? Yes. Yes, he could try. The character Cha Sang-kyung has used Law of Interest LV2. The stigma Law of Interest was quite interesting among the investigation techniques in ways of survival. It didn't reveal the attributes window of the opponent, but it was a skill that roughly gave information about the personality of the opponent. In other words, he would see a easily fooled demonic enemy if the person was good, while he would see a backstabbing demonic enemy if the person was bad. For example, the character Cha Sang-kyung has discovered that you are a demonic enemy that shouldn't be touched. It was like this. This? King, why are you acting like this? The character Cha Sang-kyung is greatly disturbed. Cha Sang-kyung shouted with a pale face. Demonic enemy. Huh? It can't be. At his words, the group members of the Maitreya king simultaneously looked at me. The atmosphere became tense when Cha Sang-kyung urgently added. And nothing. I have made a mistake. Huh? There's nothing? Yes, it is nothing. Everyone back off. Indeed. He would be a fool to ignore the warning of the constellation. By the way, a demonic enemy that shouldn't be touched. Maybe the one-eyed Maitreya didn't want to fight with me. Sigh, it isn't surprising. The dubious thing was the reaction of the long-haired man. It was momentary, but there was an expression of regret on his face. The plan will start in 1 hour. I'm looking forward to your participation, despite being a bit late. Cha Sangkyung said before returning to his group members. The first encounter with Gung Yi ended like this. TL, Gung Yi had a slight mention earlier in the novel. He is a king who proclaimed himself a Buddha and became a tyrant who sentenced death to anyone opposing him, including his own wife. The long-haired man said, "Phew, it almost became a major event. I'm glad. It is absurd to say that he is a king who knows the hearts of the people." Haha, Gung Yi might be recorded as a tyrant later on, but he was a good and wise king first. You never know what will happen in the future. History can change. I looked carefully at the long-haired man and asked, "By the way, who are you?" "Oh, I haven't introduced myself yet. I am Han Soo-young. I am Cha Sangkyung's assistant. A man who supported the incarnation of Gung Yi. It was highly likely that he was attached to Gung Ye's side because of his sponsor. Who was it? Perhaps it was a king? I immediately used a skill. The exclusive skill, character list, is activated. The information of this person can't be read in character list. This person isn't registered in character list. What? What's wrong? I looked at the shamelessly speaking Han Soo-young and couldn't help laughing. I see, now I knew who this person was. It's nothing. Just, I feel like you are a demonic enemy. Haha, what do you mean? I could see Han Soo-young's eyes change strangely. Maybe at this moment, both of us were thinking the same thing. The question was who would pull out a sword first. The doors of the waiting room started to open one by one. The kings are coming. There was tension in the Maitreya group while several people in the waiting room started cheering. I watched the kings walking out the door and asked Han Soo-young. Are they on the same side? Yes, they are all kings who promised to cooperate with us. From left to right, there is the prudent King Yoon Kyung and fighting King Kim Biko, then the last one who came out is the Earth Dragon King, Gu Dae-sung. I remembered something when I heard this nickname. The prudent king and fighting king. They were just like their nicknames. They had decent skills and stats, but they were one step lacking compared to the 7 kings. The only one I needed to pay attention to was the Earth Dragon King Gu Dae-sung. Gu Dae-sung discovered Cha Sangkyung and asked, "You have already come out? Fast. You are a rude earthworm." Earthworm? Is that what you are calling my sponsor? Yusanga was startled when she heard their words and whispered to me, "That person, I think he has a good sponsor behind him." How do you know? I heard the story that the King of Beach was born from an earth dragon. Earth dragon? That's what they meant by earthworm. The other kings are calling him the son of an earth dragon in a mocking manner. She was really amazing. She figured out the identity of Gu Dae-sung with this much information. Yusanga was right. Earth Dragon King Gu Dae-sung. In my memories, he was one of Seoul's 7 kings, with the late King Jaeon-won as his sponsor. There are quite a few people with kings as a sponsor. Then the king we saw before. I nodded. In fact, it wasn't a coincidence that there were so many incarnations with a king as their sponsor. The situation would be similar in other areas, not just the Seoul Dome. In Japan, there would be a competition between the 3 heroes including Oda Nobunaga. In the UK, there would be a competition between Richard the Lionheart or Henry VIII. The world's greatest constellations would be preparing for a war over the absolute throne, raising their coordination with their incarnation to a breathtaking level. The constellation Maritime War God is expecting the appearance of a new Fable-class constellation. The constellation Bald General of Justice is watching the situation with sweaty hands. The other high-ranking constellations were also interested. It was natural. As I said before, the 4th scenario was an event for the greatest constellations of each country. Is everyone gathered? The king soon gathered in the middle and gave a speech. Our enemy is the tyrant king who entered the 3rd door. The tyrant king has already received 2 jewels from this dungeon and cowardly raided innocent kings. Some of the people present would have lost a king to him. That's why this waiting room was a field of corpses. Perhaps the tyrant king killed 2 kings and took away their star jewels. It meant he would soon gather all 7 star jewels. The new soul shouldn't be handed over to such a person. If he gets the 4 demonic beheading sword and then takes the absolute throne, there will be endless grief and tragedy in Seoul. Thus, the people have to fight. Get up right now. The kings here are all wise. The future will be fine no matter which of us becomes the absolute king. We have to at least stop the worst king. This will be a struggle for a righteous way of living. Take care. You will be great fighters taking your first step into a new history. The speech didn't have much substance, but people became excited. Some people cheered, some sympathized, while others were touched to tears. It was like they were real revolutionaries fighting for justice. I looked at the scene alone. Just 1 month ago, the people here had voted for a president. They did their duty and agreed to have private property through legitimate economic activities. All of a sudden, it felt like a dream. In just 1 month, Seoul had returned to the kingdom days. Depart. Hundreds of people entered through the 3rd door. Cha Sang-kyung's group was at the back and we moved in line with them. Our vision wavered before a giant tunnel appeared. It was a huge tunnel where the size couldn't be easily measured. Han Soo-young walked beside me and opened his mouth. This is so exciting. I feel like I'm in a martial arts novel. A martial arts novel? Han Soo-young nodded with a meaningful smile. Why, don't you think it is like a martial arts novel? It is like a treasure map. The legendary sword is sleeping in the stone chamber and whoever obtains the sword shall be the best person in the world. Han Soo-young spoke accompanied by gestures seemed quite plausible. It wouldn't be unbelievable if he was an actor. It is a common cliché in a martial arts novel, the treasure sword. Oh, Dr. SSI, do you read martial arts novels as well? It couldn't be missed when talking about genre fiction. I read quite a bit. By the way, there is a common development in these cliché novels. Common development? What is it? It turns out that the treasure map is a fake. This type of development. Han Soo-young's eyes shook. This is interesting. What happens next? It is an obvious story. The shadow laughs quietly and kills the people gathered because of the fake treasure. Ho, is that the current situation? Could someone be a shadow? I nodded and stated, it is a possibility, although I don't like such obvious clichés. What does that mean? To be honest, there are too many clichés like the treasure sword. There are too many stories, making it bad? For writers, I think it is a story that lacks distress. Han Soo-young's expression slightly hardened. Then what would Dr. SSI do if you were the writer? What if you had to write about the treasure sword? I'm not sure. I am a reader as my name suggests. I think that a reader would do the same. Writing familiar clichés will give satisfaction to the readers. Yes, I thought he would say something like this. I smiled and asked, who said this? You are speaking as a writer. I'm not saying that clichés are bad. At the very least, a plagiarist shouldn't use it. Plagiarist? Yes, a plagiarist. It was funny to see Han Soo-young's face change colors. Well, every story is similar. It is the details that are a bit different. Can it really be called plagiarism? Perhaps if Dr. SSI is the writer. Nope, I would do it differently. Han Soo-young's eyebrows twitched. You would write it differently? How? For example, like this. I raised unbroken faith and cut his neck. No blood was visible as his head fell down. I added, why are you hiding when it will be revealed anyway? Then Han Soo-young's head spoke from where it was lying on the ground. How interesting. Kim Dokja. Chapter 68. Master of the Throne. Part 5. I picked up his severed head and asked, as expected, this is also an avatar. Han Suyang is your real name? Yes. Han Suyang was the first apostle, as I thought. That damn plagiarist was always hiding like a coward. WW, what is this guy? People shouted with alarm from all sides. There were confused voices, and voices filled with betrayal. I stepped to one side with Yu Senga and Li Gilyang. Of course, Han Suyang's talking head was still held in one hand. I was right. It is you who spread out the text novel. Right? That's right, I scattered the text version of your plagiarized novel. The revelation isn't plagiarized. It is plagiarism. Did you write the original setting? Don't compare my work to that rubbish. You understand what I am saying and don't deny reading the original. Han Suyang glared at me. Everyone, kill him. What are you doing? AA head is talking. Han Suyang's expression distorted. People were alarmed by the turmoil but showed no signs of acting. In addition, they would soon have no room to worry about us. I smiled at Han Suyang. The cliché that you said will start soon. I waited and there was a burst of light. The rings of light moved, drawing lines of blood on the bodies of some people. What? A person screamed as blood spurted from a body, cut to pieces. The people in the back screamed and moved. Damn these guys. It was black magic power that came from a strong presence approaching in front of me. Raise the palanquin. The neutral voice came from the large palanquin. There was the shadow of someone inside the palanquin. I reflexively shouted. Yu Senga SSI, Gilyang. Move back. A voice flowed from the palanquin. Move. The palanquin started to approach the group of people. The three rings of light mercilessly swept over the battlefield. Dozens of people died at once. People stared with disbelief as their limbs disappeared and blood spurted. The start of the battle lines instantly became bare. Yua. The terrified group members retreated. In the seething silence, everyone shut their mouths like dead mice. The tyrant king walked out of the palanquin. They really aren't very good. The kings of the previous age. He held the three-ring loop in his hand, an item that released condensed magic power. It was a hidden item available in Northern Seoul, but it wasn't something the original Tyrant King had. It must be true that he had some profits. The exclusive skill, character list is activated. Plus. Character information, name, Young Young-ho. Age, 33 years old. Constellation support, Great King Hyeonchan Hongdu Jayangmin Wimu. Private attribute, circus member, rare, Tyrant King, hero. Exclusive skills, grabbing techniques LV5, sky steps LV3, weapons training LV5. Stigma, palanquin tank LV5, Kyoyangmu LV5, tyranny, LV4, TL. Kyoyangmu is a Korean mask dance that is the oldest surviving Korean court dance. It is also considered a shamanistic dance because it is performed to drive off evil spirits at the end of the year. Overall stats, physique LV30, strength LV28, agility LV28, magic power LV34, +2, overall evaluation, the worst tyrant on the Korean peninsula has met disgruntled citizens. Small citizens dissatisfied with the social system won't ignore the opportunities he gives them. Asterisk starter pack is currently applied. Asterisk a growth package is currently applied. Asterisk the new scenarios package is currently applied. Plus. The attributes window made sense. He was so strong because he used 3 packages. He also had a constellation who liked to walk dangerously on a tightrope. An aura covered his entire body. The Tyrant King was raising his sympathy with his sponsor to the limit. Several dakibis, including Bai Hyung, were staring at him from the air. They were prepared to make a plausibility request at any time if he violated plausibility. I certainly was a tyrant. But I am no longer a tyrant. The Tyrant King, Great King Hyeonchan Hongdu Jayangmin Wimu. History isn't scary. It is because from today onwards, I will make a new history for this land. The top tyrant of the Korean peninsula who wasn't recorded as a king in history. I am Yi Sang-gun, born Lee Young. TL, Yeon Sang-gun is considered the worst tyrant of the Joseon dynasty, perhaps all of Korean history, notorious for launching 2 bloody purges of palace officials. Once overthrown, he didn't receive a temple name. A tremendous magic power emerged from the tyrant king as sympathy with the sponsor reached its limit. The group members in the way exploded. Level 30 magic power was inserted in the 3-ring loop. It was very dangerous. Don't back down. Everyone fight. However, the anti-tyrant king alliance was also unbelievable. Apart from the other kings, there was also the Maitreya king and the Earth Dragon king. Once the kings united, the disadvantages were gradually reduced. The other kings raised the sympathy with their sponsor close to the limit. It wasn't just the incarnations, the constellations were also desperate. I looked down at Han Soo-young's head and asked, "You aren't going to fight?" Han Soo-young laughed at my words. Laughing? "I guess you still have room to spare," I said. Do you think it will go as you planned?" Yi Sang-gun and the other kings have started to fight. Once they are exhausted, you will be able to take the 4-ing demonic beheading sword. Right? It was pretty close. But it won't work. Your act of spreading the text was quite good, but I have been preparing for today much longer than you. What nonsense are you saying? In the end, the cliché will win. The voice of the intermediate Dakibi was heard in the air. Hoo-hoo, everyone is fighting well. Great constellations, are you desperate? I see. The incarnations and constellations should work hard. Does everyone want to go up another narrative class? The battlefield quieted down at the Dakibi's voice. That's why I brought good news. From now on, the second qualification test will begin. Plus, King's qualification. 1. The owner of the throne should be braver than anyone else. The absolute throne never wants a weak king. To challenge the throne, you must own at least a black flag. 2. He who dreams of the throne must desire it. The number of kings that can challenge the throne is decided. In order to gain the right to challenge it, you must remove the other kings around you. Plus, the intermediate Dakibi laughed. Please note that only 5 kings can challenge the final qualification of the absolute throne. The remaining number is, let's see. Number of kings remaining, 14. The people started murmuring. F14? Are there still kings outside? For your reference, there are 12 kings currently inside the hidden dungeon. I was a bit surprised. There were so many kings in this dungeon. Well, I didn't think I would be the only hidden king. Who is it? Who is the king that is hiding? The tyrant king laughed at the confused people. Ha ha ha. It is very funny that you are hitting each other in the back of the head. Now isn't the time to fight among ourselves. We must pay attention to the tyrant king. It happened when the kings barely regained their sense of reason. Here. This guy is the king. Han Soo-young's head shouted to everyone. I saw it. He has a flag. What? This was really... I quickly trampled on Han Soo-young's head. Everyone's attention focused on me. It was the moment when the death of one of the remaining kings was decided. If we kill him... I felt it was cheap. The plagiarist's plot was too shallow. Wait a minute, perhaps? How interesting. Was it like that? I focused on the people secretly moving behind the kings. They were the loyal subjects that the kings cherished. Cough. The thin knife cut off the head of a king. The number of remaining kings has been reduced. Number of kings remaining, 12. The prudent king and fighting king were exhausted, while the Maitreya king and Earth Dragon king were hit hard by the surprise attack. Even the tyrant king was stabbed in the side and thighs by 3 men from behind. These damn people. I realized who was behind this. The humans who betrayed their kings didn't bleed when their heads were cut off. The gems of the fallen kings were quickly taken by someone. The jewel. My jewel. The star jewels were moved through the hands of the hidden avatars and gathered in one person's hands. I told you. In the end, the cliché won. A beautiful girl moved through the air and laughed as she landed on a niche. Surely this wasn't the main body of the plagiarist writer? I hadn't expected a woman. The 7 jewels gathered in her hands emitted light. The fake King Han Suyang has gathered all 7 star jewels. The 7 star jewels are sacrificed to summon a new item. Fake King Han Suyang is summoning the 4-in demonic beheading sword. In the end, the plagiarist writer became the master of the 4-in demonic beheading sword. She was the fake king. It was an attribute that matched amazingly well. Doc SSI. What should we do? It is still okay. Yu Sanga made a strange face at my blasé words. Is it okay to be so calm? That is a great item. That's right. The S+ grade item was great. But Yin Sangan's 3-ring loop was also a S grade item. The performance was a bit different, but it wasn't that bad. Ha 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 ha. Die. Die. A dazzling magic power poured out of the 4-in demonic beheading sword and swept through the battlefield. However, people didn't die easily. People thought they were going to explode, but they managed to neutralize her magic power. Her magic power was weakened because she used a lot of avatars, and above all, the 3 main kings were still alive. The confused Han Suyang shouted, What is this? Why is it so weak? Kill her. Kill her and take away that sword. Yuyuwa. Back off. Back off. It turned out like this. Han Suyang was pushed back to where my party was located. I said to her, the cliché has broken. This is what usually happens. Shut up. Do you want me to help you? No need. Han Suyang cried out and waved her sword again. But she seemed to be getting pushed back. I wanted to say something to this silly girl. The weapon wasn't famous because it was strong, but because the original owner was strong. I will kill you. The tyrant king recovered his confidence and started attacking, while the other kings started to fight as well. The battle soon became a melee with no allies. By the way, it should be time for him to come. Was he still wandering? The northern region of Seoul was far, but it was enough time for him to return. Number of kings remaining, 11. The signboard in the air changed. Number of kings remaining, 10. Ah, indeed. Number of kings remaining, 9, he came. What? Why is the number dwindling suddenly? The surrounding kings were filled with fear. The number of kings started decreasing for an unknown reason. Number of kings remaining, 8. The fear of the kings reached the limit as the number decreased to 1 digit. There is someone. Someone is killing the kings. On the other hand, there was someone rejoicing. The tyrant king. Ha ha ha. Who cares? You will also die. The tyrant king was about to fire the 3-ring loop again when the ceiling collapsed and the tyrant king fell. Kwaong. A formidable storm of magic power struck and the tyrant king screamed painfully. The enormous storm of magic power that disassembled all living things into particles destroyed the tyrant king's body. Yuak. Then. Number of kings remaining, 7. Only the cold appearance of a person remained in front of them. The people close to the unusual scene trembled and flopped down. What? What is this? A man had killed the tyrant king in a single blow, like he was a bug. The explosion cleared and his appearance was gradually revealed. The surviving kings and dying kings, everyone looked at him with captivation. Han Suyang's legs shook with fear and she retreated. Nonsense, this is nonsense. The words of her avatar suddenly came to mind. The strongest among the 7 kings in Seoul was the tyrant king. I previously thought so, but these words weren't true. So far, I had met 5 out of the 7 kings, including Han Dong-hoon, who didn't become a king because of the prophets. Hermit King of Shadows, Han Dong-hoon. King of Beauty, Min Jae-won. The Maitreya King Cha Sang-kyung. Earth Dragon King Gu Dae-sung. Tyrant King Young Young-ho. Apart from the neutral king, who hadn't appeared yet, there was still one person. Then who was the remaining person? The answer was simple. In fact, I met him before any other kings. A furious voice rang through the battlefield. Kim Dokja. I smiled and waved towards him. A large black flag flew behind the person heading towards me. You came. Of the 7 kings of Seoul, the strongest was naturally the Supreme King, Yoo Jong-hyuk. Chapter 69. Master of the Throne. Part 6. Nevertheless, a main character was a main character. I sent him to Gangbuk Station, but he already had a black flag. If a non-representative took away the flag of a representative, the hidden scenario Revolutionary Road would open. He knew this, and killed a representative on the way here, making him a king. Looking at Yoo Jong-hyuk's current appearance, it seemed like Lee Jae-hai and Young Hee-won did a good job. I took a few steps back and looked at Han Soo-young. Hey, quickly give me that sword. I don't want to. Do you want to die here? Han Soo-young's eyes were shaken as Yoo Jong-hyuk moved. I exclaimed, Gil-young. Lee Gil-young's eyes turned white, like he had been waiting. I heard a tearing sound and something pounding on the dungeon. Then after a while, the sickle of a praying mantis flew through one wall. The 6th great insect king, Titanoptera, has appeared. Lee Gil-young's ability was the best. The whole cave shook with the enormous power of the giant insect king. As Yoo Jong-hyuk looked back, I struck Han Soo-young. Aak. Han Soo-young groaned and let go of the 4-in demonic beheading sword. I picked up the sword as well as the flag hanging from Han Soo-young's neck as a bonus. You have won the flag of the Hanguk University group. Your purple flag has absorbed the cumulative achievements of the black flag. Your purple flag has evolved into a black flag. You are able to use the perks of the black flag. Congratulations! You have completed the first king's qualification. Number of kings remaining, 6. I ran straight towards the Tyrant King. The Tyrant King was lying down between a pile of stones, his body crushed like dough. It was terrible. He tried to kill everyone only to die in vain like this. Han Soo-young shouted from behind me. You thief! I ignored her and quickly swept up the Tyrant King's items. The item 3-ring loop has been acquired. The item Dragon Jar has been acquired. The revival Dragon Jar. The Tyrant King obtained it by clearing the 7-person dungeon. Kim Dokja. Yoo Jong-hyuk was chasing after me at a scary speed. Despite the fact that I had 30 agility, he narrowed the distance to me in an instant. I looked around and hid behind the nearest king. What? It was the king of Later Beach, Gu Dae-sung. Quiet. Yoo Jong-hyuk's relentless blow cracked his head while Yoo Jong-hyuk obtained his flag. The constellation founder of Hanemgun is looking at you. I felt sorry for Jae-won, but it couldn't be helped. I promised to make it up to him next time. At this time, I decided to stop running away. Jong-hyuk, stop for a minute. Let's talk. That note, the note? My sister. It was only 2 words, but I instantly understood. Fortunately, Lee Jae-hai handled things safely. The note was given to Yoo Jong-hyuk at the right time. What about your sister? Where did you hide my sister? What are you talking about? The character Yoo Jong-hyuk is currently using lie detection LV6. The character Yoo Jong-hyuk has confirmed that your words are false. If you don't tell me right away, you really will die. I knew it was true even without lie detection. The reason why Yoo Jong-hyuk was like this was entirely due to my plot. I drove him to go north to save his sister, causing him to waste time searching the north. Yoo Jong-hyuk's less worn-out personality in this third regression made the plan possible. It couldn't be helped, even if I was acting cowardly. If Yu Jong-hyuk, who was much stronger than the original third regression, ignored everything and engaged in the War of Kings, this scenario would have ended at his pace. Then I would never get the ending that I wanted. Okay. Let's put the sword down and talk. What if I was a real jerk? Are you taking my family hostage? That's going overboard. Isn't that just your words? The concept of a hostage didn't exist for him in the first place. This guy could just die and go back. Then why did you do this? Why do you think? Yu Jong-hyuk noticed that I was buying time and his expression cooled. I should have killed you at that time, then die. The moment that Yu Jong-hyuk raised his sword, a voice was heard from the air. Everyone here, please calm down. Why are you still fighting? Let's see, you've met the qualifications. The intermediate Dakibi appeared at this moment. Yu Jong-hyuk also confirmed the number board floating in the air. Number of kings remaining, 5. The last king's qualification has begun. The bodies of the remaining kings, including me and Yu Jong-hyuk, started to be forcibly moved through space. Kim Dok. Yu Jong-hyuk reached out for me, but it was too late. I finally reached the last phase of this scenario. The qualified kings will move to the final testing place. The landscape started changing. It felt like my body was being sucked somewhere else. The next moment, tongue. There was the sound of me bumping my head against something. A moment later, I became conscious again. You aren't qualified to take past in the last king's qualifications. What? I looked around and saw that I was standing in the center of Gwanghwamun. I had bumped into a barrier the size of a schoolyard. The center contained the absolute throne, the last reward of this scenario. Why couldn't I enter? Ha ha hot. This. You were only looking at the big picture and missed something important. I looked up at the sound of laughter and saw the ridiculing face of the intermediate Dakibi. I thought he was playing tricks on me, but then an unexpected message flashed. You have failed to occupy the target station of the fourth scenario. You must first take the target station to be qualified for the last king's qualifications. Your group's target station is Chongsin Station. Ah. I was only thinking about the kings and forgot. I hadn't occupied it yet. The last phase can't be performed unless the previous phase is cleared properly. Did you think you could get away with it? There was already fighting going on inside the barrier. If this continued, everything I had done would be in vain. I thought I should run to Chongsin Station before it was too late. By the way, damn. Wouldn't all the scenarios end if I ran there? Dr. SSI. Yu Senga was rushing over here while carrying the collapsed Lee Gil-young. But there were more people with them. Huh? Hyun SSI? Young Hee-won ran to this side while holding the hands of an unknown girl. Is my brother really here? The girl asked. Yes. How many times do I have to say it? But I'm hungry. Young Hee-won wasn't supposed to be here right now. After saving a girl from the gangbuk area of Seoul, she should wait at Chongshin Station. That was Young Hee-won's job in this scenario. Hee-won SSI, why are you here? I told you to wait at Chongsin Station. No, how long was I waiting? Besides, she has been hungry since morning. Aren't you worried about your sister? At Young Hee-won's words, the girl pointed to me and said, that person isn't my brother. Eh? He is uglier than my brother. Damn kid. Young Hee-won was surprised as she looked between me and the girl. Eh? This isn't Dr. SSI's sister? I thought that was why you asked me to save her. No. Then who is it? It was natural for Young Hee-won not to know. Who would think this girl would be the psychopath's sister? I heard a growling sound from the girl's stomach. I listened to the sound and laughter emerged. Would my perfect plan collapse here? Dr. SSI, where are you going? I'm going to occupy Chongsin Station. I had to challenge it, even if I was late. I wish there was a long-distance teleport scroll, but the intermediate Dakibi wouldn't let me open the Dakibi bag. Then Young Hee-won looked at me and opened her mouth. Why would you go there? Huh? Kid, bring that thing out. Didn't I give it to you before? Yes. Yoo Jong-hyuk's sister, Yumiya, put her hand in her mouth. After a moment, her mouth became abnormally large and an unusual-sized stone emerged. It was Yumiya's exclusive skill, inventory. I moved towards the chunk of stone. What is this? Don't you know? I examined the rough surface of the stone. Then I saw a small groove that could hold something. I never thought of this. Was this method possible? No one had tried this in Ways of Survival. Young Hee-won shamelessly said, "Don't you need the flagpole to occupy the station?" What type of ignorant human would think up an idea like this? Young Hee-won had cut up the floor that contained the flag holder of Chongshin Station. The Constellation adventurer who stands up an egg admires Young Hee-won's idea. I tried to say something but fell silent. Why, is something wrong? No. Then what are you doing? Go ahead and insert the flag. I nodded and pulled out the flag. You have occupied Chongshin Station. You have earned 2,000 coins as a reward for struggle for the flag. I really did it. Your group has occupied the target station. Your body has moved to the battlefield of the last king's qualification. My consciousness flickered again. A message popped up as a king's qualification was added. Plus. King's qualification. 1. The owner of the throne should be braver than anyone else. The absolute throne never wants a weak king. To challenge the throne, you must own at least a black flag. 2. He who dreams of the throne must desire it. The number of kings that can challenge the throne is decided. In order to gain the right to challenge it, you must remove the other kings around you. 3. A single king stands alone without any help. The king who can challenge the throne must be able to prove his strength was just his body. Plus. The constellation Maritime War God is calmly watching the situation. The constellation Bald General of Justice is cheering for the upper-grade constellations. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is laughing. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon scoffs at the upper-grade constellations. The constellations had opposite reactions, unlike other times. It was because the constellations had different ranks. The gap between upper grade and narrative grade was like the difference between a child and an adult. That's why the reaction of the constellations watching the broadcast differed. Like adults not paying attention to a child's game of hide-and-seek, this scenario was meaningless for constellations above narrative grade. But the upper-grade constellations were different. In this scenario, the triumphant upper-grade constellation would climb to the absolute throne and build up their story. This was why the upper-grade constellations were impatient once the king's qualification scenario began. I opened my eyes, and the king's battlefield began. From now on, all kings can't receive the support of their sponsor. From now on, the attack and defense of all items will be limited. From now on, all skills, stigmas, and special item options will be sealed. From now on, the total stats of all kings will change to 10/10/10/10/10. The last king's qualification will continue until one person is left.